this meeting. Yeah, it does. And we have a session. I don't session.
Okay. I want to welcome everyone this evening. This is the City of Hannibal official public hearing, Tuesday, June 16, 2020, 6:45 p.m., Council Chambers of City Hall. Call this meeting to order. The first item on the agenda and only item is Karen Burdett, Director of Finance. You are going to present our 2020-2021 fiscal year budget.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Council. As we had our budget workshop and we went over and discussed the budget as the preliminary budget was printed, there were just a couple of changes that we had to the preliminary budget, and we have no other changes at this time. So we will have a budgeted decrease in general fund of $707,130. And then total over all the budgeted items, $3,329,351. However, there is a lot of spending down that was planned already with the riverfront and with the other street department items that we are going to be purchasing, especially with the USDA grant that we are applied for. So those expenses will be coming out at the beginning of the year, and then finishing up the 2016 street bond. So anyway, a lot of things going on, but as we discussed at our workshop, the reasoning for our decreases in revenue, we're trying to be very conservative, but good stewards of the city funds, and we are budgeting a 5% decrease in all sales and use tax, 10% decrease in merchant license, 15% decrease in motor fuel, and then a 3.5% decrease in DPW utility fees, because they are budgeting a decrease. So those major items right there are $412,000. So anyway, it's pretty much, it is exactly like we discussed at the workshop. Nothing has changed. Do any of you have any questions?
Just when would you expect to hear about the grant, the USDA grant?
They have already given us the go-ahead to go out for bid.
Oh, so it's...
So, yes,
it's
because I
approved.
asked about
Okay.
that. I said, now, is there any chances of these funds being pulled from us? And they said, no. Once they've made the commitment, they basically have those funds that have been appropriated for us in an account earmarked for us. So
fantastic.
that was our concern about wanting to hurry up and get this through before they lose any funding. So they have already given us the go-ahead to go ahead and start the bidding process. And we are out the bid already. Yeah.
Oh, super. Okay. Okay, great.
Any other questions?
You can tell who's excited about that street sweeper, can't you?
The merchants will be
Much
thrilled.
needed, yes. So,
Okay.
no other questions? Okay, so I will be presenting tonight the ordinance for the appropriation, for the expenses, and for the payroll.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, there's a portion open for public comments. If anyone wishes to comment on the information presented or the budget of the City of Hannibal at this time. That makes it rather easy. Okay, well, with no other comments or input, council is satisfied. Go ahead and call this public hearing to a close, and regular scheduled council meeting will start in about 10 minutes. Thank you.
Seven, it's on the center scene. Basically, so
I mean, she's got some samples that she wants you guys to look at. I'm like, bring it on, and, you know, if it's something that sparks their interest, I am happy to try to put something together. But, you know, it's your job to convince the council. I'm not gonna take it on.
Okay, we're on. All right. I can see. Okay, good evening, everyone. This is the official council agenda, Tuesday, June 16, 2020, Council Chambers, City Hall, 7 p.m. I'd ask the clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Veach. Here. McCoy. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Here?
Councilmember Cogdill.
Here.
Mayor Hart.
Here.
Councilmember Bowen. Welch.
Here.
Okay, there being a quorum, I would call this meeting to order. Councilperson Cogdill, would you do the invocation this evening, please?
Gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we just come before you tonight, Lord, to ask for your blessings, Lord, for your guidance, Father God, in all the decisions that we're making, Lord, as we set up here, Lord, and we discuss the issues and the needs, Lord, in our community. Lord, we just ask that you would give us good, solid minds with wisdom and education and Lord, just whatever's in the community's best interest, Lord, just give us the means to make those decisions. Lord, I'd like to pray over our country right now. Lord, I ask that you would just, Lord, just bring your healing down upon this nation right now. Lord, that we could all see each other, Lord, we could all love each other, Lord, and that we could find resolve, Lord, in making unity in this nation, Lord, and in the world. I ask that you'd bless this community, each and every citizen that resides here, Lord, and that you would just bring down your comfort and your blessings upon each and every person. Lord, I ask that you'd guide this meeting, Lord, that you would just keep us on track, Lord, to do the best work that we can, to be the best servants we can, not only to this community, to you. I ask these things in Jesus' name and for his sake. Amen.
I ask Andy Dorian, Director of Central Services, to lead us in the pledge. Council, at this time, I would ask for a motion to excuse Councilman Bowen from tonight's proceedings. He is home with his newborn. They just come home today, and mom and baby are doing fine.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Now I'm requesting a motion to approve the agenda as it's presented this Tuesday, June 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion over the agenda items? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. Now asking for a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session meeting of February 18th, 2020, and the regularly scheduled council meeting of June 2nd, 2020.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. Now requesting a motion to approve payroll and claims for the first half of June 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion over payroll and claims? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is to be our city clerk. The deputy city clerk sitting in this evening. We have certification of election from June 2020. May proceed.
Okay. Certification of election, results of the municipal election of June 2nd, 2020. For council member 5th Ward, for Marion County, Colin R. Welch received 98 votes with 2 write-ins. For Rawls County, he received 11 votes with 0 write-ins, declaring Colin R. Welch winner of the 5th Ward council seat. For council member 6th Ward, we have Jeffrey Veach for a total of 190 votes with 5 write-ins, declaring Jeffrey A. Veach winner of the 6th Ward council seat. For Proposition R, for Marion County, we had 667 yes votes, 219 no votes. For Rawls County, we had 7 yes votes with 6 no votes, showing a total vote of 899 for Proposition R for the City of Hannibal, total of 674 yes and 225 no votes, declaring Proposition R having passed by 449 votes.
Very good, thank you.
I don't think so.
Okay, I didn't think so either. We have now before us Bill number 20-011. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a second and final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried.
Bill number 20-011, an ordinance revising Chapter 4, Animals, Article 4, Dogs and Cats, Section 4-112, Cats Running at Large, as contained in the revised ordinance of the City of Hannibal. Second and final reading. Councilmember Veach,
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cogdill,
Yes.
Mayor Hark,
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
I declare Bill number 20-011 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have Bill number 20-012. I need a motion to have the clerk read this bill.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Bill number 20-012, an ordinance revising Chapter 7, Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 6, Building Demolition, Section 7-370, License, as contained in the revised ordinance of the City of Hannibal. Second and final reading. Councilmember Veach,
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cogdill,
Yes.
Mayor Hark,
Yes.
Councilmember Welch.
Yes.
I declare Bill number 20-012 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have before us Bill number 20-013. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a second and final reading.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried.
Bill number 20-013, an ordinance vacating a portion of an alley line in McMaster Subdivision, Hannibal, Marion County, Missouri. Second and final reading. Councilmember Veach,
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cogdill,
Yes.
Mayor Hark,
Yes.
Councilmember Welch.
Yes.
I declare Bill number 20-013 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have Bill number 20-014. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a second and final reading.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Bill number 20-014, an ordinance approving annexation of property located off of Stardust Drive into the city limits of Hannibal, Marion County, Missouri. Second and final reading. Councilmember Veach,
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dodson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cogdill,
Yes.
Mayor Hark,
Yes.
Councilmember Welch.
Yes.
I declare Bill number 20-014 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have Bill number 20-015. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a second and final reading.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Bill number 20-015, an ordinance approving annexation of property located off of Stardust Drive between Head Lane and Clover Road into the city limits of Hannibal, Marion County, Missouri. Second and final reading. Councilmember Veach,
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cogdill,
Yes.
Mayor Hark,
Yes.
Councilmember Welch.
Yes.
Declare Bill number 20-015 duly approved and adopted on this day. We now have Bill number 20-016. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a second and final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Bill number 20-016, an ordinance revising Chapter 2, Article 6, Division 2, Section 2-331, Utility Service Surcharge of the revised ordinance of the City of Hannibal. Second and final reading. Councilmember Veach,
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cogdill,
Yes.
Mayor Hark,
Yes.
Councilmember Welch.
Yes.
I declare Bill number 20-016 duly approved and adopted on this day. Council, at this time, under my name, I'm going to administer the oath of office to the 2 council members who were re-elected. And I can have 5th Ward Council Member Colin Welch and 6th Ward Council Member Jeffrey Beach meet me in front of the flag. You both have the oath of office in front of you. Chosen to serve once again. Those selected. I'm happy to serve. Oftentimes, family, there's work. Sometimes you're not always the most popular person. You're going to make this to everyone. As long as we serve, try to work for the greater good of our community. Okay. All right. You know how this goes, so raising your right hand. State your name. Obviously, I want to put your state your name. Repeat after me. I solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the State of Missouri, and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Hannibal, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office. That any appointment, promotion, or discharge of officers or employees, I will be influenced only by the consideration of fitness, and that in such matters I will act with impartiality and justice. Good. Things over. That's all right. We're still working on it. Okay, as outlined in the agenda, we now adjourn. Sine die.
Make that motion.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. I don't have to present plaques to individuals leaving and stuff.
Yeah.
We're all still here.
Yep.
That's
You
good.
say, yeah.
Remember, be careful what you wish for. Okay, this time we'll go ahead and reconvene. I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Veach,
Here.
McCoy,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Here.
Councilmember Cogdill,
Here.
Mayor Hark,
Here.
Councilmember Bowen, Councilmember Welch.
Here.
Okay, there being a quorum, I will call this meeting to order. Let's go ahead and move to the first item on the new agenda. Jacob Naki, Hannibal Community Promotions Group.
Good evening, sorry. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm here for consideration of the special event application. I'm representing the Hannibal Community Promotions Group regarding the closure of Lover's Leap for the 4th of July fireworks display, and of course the approval for the fireworks discharge from Lover's Leap. I believe we've already turned in the insurance paperwork to the city clerk's office, and that paperwork should be in file.
And you're correct.
Motion to approve. Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Thank
I just
you.
wanted to make him a little bit nervous. Okay, next item on the agenda is April Azotea, citizen. Where's April? In the very back.
Thank you.
In April, can you be sure to leave one extra copy for Councilman Bowen? I'm sure he will, if you have enough. Okay. Very good, thank you.
Here shortly, I'm going to have you guys open the folders that I've just given out. Okay. Every year, thousands of animals are victims of cruelty. Animal cruelty generally falls under two categories: intentional cruelty and unintentional cruelty or neglect. While fundamentally different at the source, all forms result in the physical and/or emotional suffering of the animal victim. I am here today to be their voice. I want everyone here right now to imagine being chained up outside with only 2 feet to move. Imagine it being 100+ degrees or below zero and the sun beating down on you, or being so cold with no way to get warm or away from the weather. I want you to raise your hand if that's a life you would want to live. Anybody? That's because that's a life of a prisoner, and no one would want to live that life. This is how dogs in our very own community are living because our codes and ordinances aren't clear or too lax. Most people get dogs as pets, yet because of our codes, we are allowing people to treat their dogs like prisoners. We don't have to allow this, and by changing the ordinances and codes, we will be sending a clear message that our community does not accept, nor will we allow cruelty against animals. We must be a voice for those that don't have one. I've always been passionate about animals, and 4 weeks ago, I found out that there is a puppy mill right here in Hannibal. I know there is nothing that the council can do, being that this is out of city limits, but I also wanted to bring to your attention a few things, like the fact that several neighbors, as well as business owners that are in fact in the city limits, are affected by this puppy mill each and every day, and this has been going on for almost 40 years. I did an online petition, and in less than 4 weeks, I have 16,741 signatures, people supporting me, wanting to see them shut down. In your folder, behind 4 and 5 are statements from neighbors and businesses that have been affected. Behind number 6 is the inspection reports for the last 5 years that I filed a sunshine law request with the Department of Agriculture. I'm not asking you guys to go over these right now, but I ask that when you leave here, you take the time, if you truly care about animals in our community, to thoroughly read over those. When I started reading the inspection reports for this puppy mill, it literally made me sick to my stomach. And I want you guys to be able to reference this as to what we should not allow within the city limits and within our community. While fighting to get the puppy mill shut down these last 4 weeks, several people in the community have reached out to me about dogs that are in fact in the city limits. I've thoroughly read the city codes as well as the state laws, and again, both are way too lax, but extremely bothered by the fact that certain codes aren't even being enforced that fall under animal cruelty because of the wording not being clear enough or people finding a loophole. I have spent countless hours researching, talking to Animal Control, the State Humane Society, Department of Agriculture, local law enforcement, the prosecuting attorneys, several different rescues all over the United States, and the list goes on. I'm speaking not only for myself, but several people in the community, some of which are here tonight, when I say, why are we allowing this? Why are we allowing innocent dogs to suffer and die each day? Does the city not have to enforce state laws? If you look in your folder, behind number 1 is animal protection laws of Missouri packet. So if you go to page 9 of the packet, it talks about adequate care, normal and prudent attention to the needs of an animal, including wholesome food, clean water, shelter, and health care as necessary to maintain good health in specific species of animals. So on page 13, it talks about sufficient housing, including protection from the elements. I was not aware until recently, after talking with animal control, that in the city limits, it is not required for dogs to have a doghouse. And you would think, needing to have shelter, they would need that. But shelter is, in fact, shade for them to get out of the sun. But what happens when it's storming? This is something that needs to be changed. Also on page 9, it goes over, starts at the very bottom, goes over animal neglect. A person commits the offense of animal neglect if he or she has custody or ownership of an animal and fails to provide adequate care. So, shelter being defined under adequate care. And then on page 10, the very next page, it talks about animal neglect being a Class C misdemeanor, unless the person has previously been found guilty of an offense under the section, which would then make it a Class B misdemeanor. So a person commits the offense of animal abuse if he or she intentionally or purposely kills an animal in any manner not allowed by or expressly exempt from the provisions of that section. So purposely or intentionally causing injury or suffering to an animal. Do we not consider leaving a dog chained up outside 24/7 suffering? Or what would the council see as suffering? Because nowhere in the code or the ordinances does it talk about how you cannot leave a dog chained up outside 24/7. Nowhere in the codes does it talk about if a dog is chained up outside 24/7 with a foot. There's no reason we should be allowing this to continue on. Things have got to change, and what I propose, if you look at the number 3, this is an ordinance that St. Joseph, Missouri passed. These are just a couple things that they passed in regards to what they find acceptable and what I feel like would be acceptable for our community. So, unlawful restraint of a tether. Being chained up, or roped up, confined, not having a certain amount of lead or run room, limiting their mobility, does so much damage to these animals, not only physically, but emotionally. We need to make it a code that they have a minimum of whatever feet to run, to roam the area that they have. Choke collars shouldn't be allowed, especially the ones with the prongs, because that's ultimately causing a lot of damage, like the prong collars. If animals are tethered up outside, it should be for a certain amount, and we need to make sure that they do have clean water, food, and we need to define shelter to where they have something to go and actually shelter in, away from the rain. There are instances where dogs aren't going to go in a doghouse when it's hot outside. It's going to be hotter in the doghouse, but we need to give them the option that if it's raining, they have that to go into. There are some of these from the St. Joe ordinance that are pretty extreme, but again, I just wanted to use this as an example, especially when it comes to the tethering. Having to deal with an incident a couple weeks ago where 3 huskies and 2 4-month-old Rottweilers have never lived a day of their life off of a chain with minimal room, no way to shelter. It breaks my heart that there's not a code that can save them or get them what they need. So My proposal is that at the very end of the St. Joe ordinance, I'll read it. This is the explanation of the council bill that I proposed. Throughout the year, animal control and rescue response to calls regarding dogs being left in extreme temperatures that Missouri often endures. In the winter of 2017, an unfortunate event occurred when a dog was tethered outside with no shelter. The dog perished due to the cold and lack of nutrition. The current city code lacks specific requirements regarding this issue. Several community members partnered with Animal Control and Rescue to develop this code that would limit a dog being tethered for extended periods of time, and especially during the time of extreme temperatures, to define what would be considered adequate enclosures for dogs. Tethered dogs are 2.8 times more likely to bite, are more likely to become aggressive due to lack of attention and increased frustration, and are a high risk for receiving improper care. Tethered dogs are more likely to become a barking nuisance to the public due to the lack of arrangement and exercise. So what they did is they ended up putting this out for a month to get the community's input as to, would you like to see this pass? Is this something you support? So what I would like to do is propose putting out something for the community to vote on, to represent to you guys in a month or next meeting, and see how people would react, which I'm 99.9% sure they would support. Not allowing dogs to be chained up 24/7, giving them so much room on a chain, making sure that we are crystal clear in the wording that is in our code, so there's no loopholes. So no dog is suffering every single day because our codes are too lax. So I'm asking the council to, again, when they leave here, read the statements from businesses and neighbors, read the inspection reports, and I dare you not to try to get sick to your stomach or cry for that, because it's absolutely horrendous what we allow. And I'm asking you guys to support me as I push forward to try to change the codes and ordinances so that we can prove to others that our community doesn't put up with animal cruelty.
Mayor, Ms. Azate and I discussed it a little bit on the phone earlier today. If it's the council's pleasure, if you're interested in modifying the ordinances, it's something we can do. What she and I had talked about a little bit, one of my concerns is when you get into, and I hadn't seen this, but I've looked at some similar. When you get into these, this problem you sometimes run afoul of is if you get too specific, then if something's left out, then there's an argument, oh, it's not barred, and that's the statutory framework they did before. And as I told her, it way predates me. I did not draft any of these ordinances, and they are, but their intent, I think, was to keep it broad and to give I know you guys may have never really taken a look at it, and I think well, and I know you have as an officer because you had to do it, but
are you talking about the city ordinance?
Our city ordinances, because you had actually asked a question, April, and we can't prosecute state laws in city court. Now, HPD can arrest under state laws, but then that's got to go to the county courthouse. So, things like this, they generally don't want to take; they want ours. What I was going to do was just tell the council real quickly. I think there's the intent, I think, was to give it where it gives a reasonable person standard. Our ordinance on animal neglect is actually very, very short. It says a person's guilty of the misdemeanor of animal neglect when he has custody or ownership or both of an animal and fails to provide adequate care or adequate control. And Ms. Azate had expressed to me she felt that was too broad and it was a little unclear. If you look at the definitions,
4.64. That's where I'm at.
Adequate care is going to be defined as normal and prudent attention to the needs of an animal, including wholesome food, clean water, shelter, and health care as necessary to maintain good health in a specific species of animal. And then if you look at
Do you read shelter too?
Shelter means a facility which is used to house or contain animals and which is owned, operated, or maintained by a duly incorporated humane society, animal welfare society, prevention of cruelty to animals. That's actually not what she's talking about as part of shelter.
So shelter is a doghouse then?
Shelter is not. The Mayor Pro Tem had asked me to read it. It's actually referring to the humane shelter. The other thing I wanted to go to, though, was adequate control means to reasonably restrain or govern an animal so that the animal does not injure itself, any person, any other animal or property. I'm not opposed, if it's the council's pleasure, to putting in restrictions. My concern is if we're going to narrow it down and itemize out, you need to be really, really sure that we think of everything and we itemize everything out. It's something that someone is going to have to put a lot of work in to figure it out. I think Ms. Azate
I'm more than willing to
is
do
offering
that.
to help with that. I just want you to understand, and I'm not trying to argue with Ms. Azate. I think their intent was to keep it broad and use a reasonable person standard so that they could address all types of things and not itemize out. However, if it's the council's pleasure, if that's what you want us to take a look at, I'm willing to take a stab at it. But I think it would, as she suggested, require community input. I guess one thing I would ask, Mayor, is I see we have an ACO here, whether he might want to address what he's looking for and how we're using our existing ordinances.
I've actually talked to another animal control officer. I have not met you.
You said Officer Ledbetter,
Yes,
I think.
and I spoke to several people in regards to this, and I said, if we were to come to you tomorrow and say, what would you like to see changed as an animal control officer, continuously dealing with certain animals? And he said that he thinks it should be required that they do have a certain amount of length on their tether or chain, and that they should, in fact, have some type of shelter other than shade to shelter in from the heat. Him and I kind of discussed a couple other things, and if you would like to intervene, by all means, I would love any type of input to make sure that dogs in the community are staying safe.
Well, and I'm going to comment real quick. Bob, go ahead and stand up. It's kind of informal, but in the words you were expressing the intent of the ordinance and looking at it from a reasonable person's perspective, we deal many times, and I'm going to be offensive here. I'm sorry. I'll apologize ahead of time, but we don't always deal with reasonable people. And it seems to be more lacking every day trying to deal with what a person thinks is reasonable. So in the spirit of ensuring that our ordinances fit, potentially more definitions and guidance needs to be placed in them. So in that point, I agree with you there. But Bob, I didn't mean to take your floor. Go ahead.
I agree there.
But if we're narrowing it down to where we're going to leave something out, how's that any different than leaving it too broad to where people are finding loopholes?
Right now,
You know?
Right now, with our ordinance, we both basically.
I've read them thoroughly.
I do not write them down for us. Years ago, fire. I never wrote.
Yeah. And
At that point, I know I need everything. You need to have more education. Trying to that's all we can
maybe that's something we can reach out to the community and even other rescues to get involved to help.
thing with rescues now, everybody take a dog. Our job takes us time to write Sometimes it works, sometimes that's a rainbow. A lot of progress.
So, and actually, since you're here, are you familiar with the 3 Huskies and 2 Rottweilers? I'm sure you've been there because I've heard that you guys deal with this individual quite a bit.
Started dealing with dogs that
But isn't it true that you're not allowed to go there without an HPD officer because he's a convicted felon and considered armed and dangerous? And now we're taking the time away from an HPD officer that has far more important things to deal with here in town and not waste your time on something like that, continuously going to somebody's house that should not even have dogs. That keeps them chained up 24/7. Whether they were in the beginning or not, the neighbors, they've, for months and months and months, I've seen them on their chain, not taken off once. Even months ago, one of the dogs hung itself on its chain because it was so short. So that's why I'm here to change codes and ordinances. I'm not trying to make your guys' job more difficult, but to essentially help you guys so you're not continuously dealing with people like this.
The whole thing is public. So, hey, dog.
And I know you can't. Believe me, I know.
That's okay. Hey,
But
done it. All finished. There's another reason there.
well, and that's why I'm saying if we change these codes, then the codes, you would be able to take the dogs.
Take for instance, there's supposed to be food out, okay? But dog looks healthy, eating, so if he doesn't have food out there at that moment, I don't see that.
Well, they might have ate in the morning.
You leave food out all the time,
Right. Right.
So that is kind of a take our own measure. Water, gotta be shelter.
And what would you consider adequate shelter? What would you like to see as shelter for the dogs?
They, companies that are resized. So, the big barrels, a lot of dog. Dog house. Anything that they can get in out with, then that type of case with us. Wintertime, have a heat. Not gonna
Yeah.
go in.
They like the cold weather.
Rain. That's and dog out there. That's helpful. They can go in that dog. Yeah.
But I feel like they should still have the option if it were to storm or something. I know Huskies are,
They have to have that option.
Right.
Have that.
but I was told by animal control, not you, that a doghouse is not required. And I just don't think that's right, if I'm being honest. I feel like they should have that option.
The last couple of weeks, when it's 50 degrees out, max, all they've got is our shade. That's okay. Like it was today, hot, have shade. Got a tarp there, or shade, good shade. That,
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that at all, but when it's storming and I see a dog chained up outside, when it is downpouring so hard and he's crying for somebody to help him, he should have that option to shelter in a doghouse.
in that case, if we can't hold the owner,
April, could I ask a question? And here's an issue that we've had, and I'll be honest and say, when Mr. Ward was with my firm, he was doing a lot of the prosecution. So I have not done a lot of the day-to-day prosecution the last 2 years. But when I was doing a lot of the prosecution, part of the issue would be that people would make a complaint and then they would refuse to cooperate, refuse to testify because they either A, were afraid of their neighbor, or B, didn't want to make their neighbor mad, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes then when the ACO would show up, the dog would have already been taken in, et cetera, and they can only testify as to things they've actually seen. I mean, that, and one of the things I was going to suggest was, it's one of those things where we need to have a public-private partnership where people need to call,
Absolutely.
make a report, and then be willing to testify, because I hear what you're saying, and I'm really not trying to fight with you. I think under our current ordinances with for instance, you mentioned about somebody saw a dog hanging. I can assure you, I have gotten prosecutions on that where the ACOs brought it to me where a dog had wrapped itself all up, and the judge said, yeah, that's unreasonable. That's a reasonable person standard says people should be checking on their dog and making it sure. And because the people's excuse was, well, he just wrapped himself up. How was I supposed to know? And the judge said, because you were. That was unreasonable. That was inhumane. I've gotten prosecutions on things like that. With our existing ordinances, one of the problems that we run across, though, is people not calling the ACOs and the ACOs getting there and catching it. Because if I have a person who, I will tell you as prosecutor, if I have a person who will testify, even if the ACO doesn't see it, that person has the right to file a written complaint, and we're going to take a look at those. And if I've got a witness who saw it, I'm going to be willing to prosecute it. And I'll suggest that under our existing ordinances, I feel like I can get convictions on these things. But I do hear what you're saying, and I don't know what the council's pleasure is, but if you wanted to provide proposed stuff, I certainly have
Well,
no
and something
objection to
else.
showing them that. One thing I might ask is, you had mentioned you've spoken to Officer Ledbetter, and we've got Officer Stout here too. Maybe you could provide some of those things to them, some of those ideas to them, because
than happy to.
they and I had worked on some revisions to the animal code a few years ago. We didn't get them passed, but it's some stuff that maybe we ought to revisit some of those things we had previously talked about also, and your stuff too.
Well, something else that you and I had discussed is I feel like they shouldn't be able to continuously get fine after fine after fine with a slap on the wrist. It should be after so many fines,
And
there's some serious charges.
I hadn't
or
really
jail
explained that one to you. Unfortunately, we're limited to a $500 maximum fine, which is not an inconsequential sum, but that's going to be our max. That's going to be pretty much the most we're going to do. Now, I have seen, it's been a long time, but I have seen in municipal court, people get a little bit of jail time for some extreme acts of animal cruelty. But I will say it's been quite a while. It's probably been 8-10 years ago that we had that.
So the most anybody will ever get is just continuously getting $500 fines, and that's it, and they can just they're
pretty
allowed
much
to keep doing what they're doing.
pretty much in city court. Now, that's not to say that the state court system might not. The state court has a lot more teeth. Unfortunately, the way the system's set up, they don't want us to do more than a $500 fine. And so there are things that are illegal in both courts, but there are things that are, when it becomes an egregious situation, it's maybe better done in county. And I think HPD does a pretty good job of, when we get repeat offenders, sometimes trying to take those on up. But I will just tell you, the state court system has got so much other stuff in there, I don't know that we're going to have much luck getting stuff there. However, if the prosecutor there is interested in that, if we have somebody that's a repeat offender, I don't know of any reason why we wouldn't take it up there. But for us in our city court, they kind of look at us as little court, and so they lock us down to at most a $500 fine.
So, Chief, I'm going to pick on you real quick. Would this be something that your director of animal control be able to receive information, look at, and see what things would be beneficial towards your program? Okay. I opened the door, so I'm.
I'm not against the concept. Just saying. I think you have to be fair on your reaction. Just give you an idea of what CSO between 2010 and
twice is warnings. Warnings aren't just something. That's where they go and fight. Because the reality is, he sees every animal fine, may not be here for overwhelming shelter that's already. Just so you know, last year alone, they see 300 dogs. Shelter. They see 400. The reason for that is it's them. We have a voluntary surrender. Or they find the conditions so poor that they have to seize the animals large. So I hope those numbers impress upon. So I'm not saying that this might be I don't imagine. Because there is so much of an issue. Making sense. So I'm more happy to discuss this with. And then as far as the puppy, I think they got a little bit lost in that is outside the city. I understand.
It is.
So south that years ago it was in the city. But I would think that
I've spoke to, not yet.
what about the sheriff?
Yeah, I was told to let it go.
Department of Agriculture. I know that the mayor would be familiar with that. We dealt with a cat. I forgot how many cats it was, over 40. And we reached out. I know a captain. We reached out to shelter. Finally, we reached out to the Department of Agriculture. They set up a team of veterinarians to see these over 40 inbred cats that were.
Oh,
But so we have had cooperation.
all hidden inside the house.
I remember it very well. It was awful.
So I'm not against it. I'm just saying that I remember years ago our restaurant assaults. Made people stop fighting at bars. It sounds good, but in reality it may not. But I don't have to talk to you about it.
Okay. That seems like the most
That
appropriate
would be a
fit.
good place to start.
Review these things and let's mesh together what can work.
I will say one thing about that. That it's something particularly focused on. All animals wrapped around short or not to be too strict. Animal cannot their bodily functions too far away. That is something that they focus on. And they've heard me lecture on. So this is something they address. But I think what you'll see, they'll make more arrests and more citations. I'm not sure. As the mayor tried to explain, deal with a certain element that they won't see it the way you see it. Okay? Being delicate.
Well, like I said, and it doesn't bother me. You don't always deal with reasonable people. I mean, it's just,
To me, any type of change that we can even try, even if it doesn't work, we tried it.
better than,
Exactly, because to me, we're just allowing things to continue the way they happen, and dogs continue to suffer. I did talk to somebody at the Humane Society locally that was concerned with adding more ordinances to them to where they would be overwhelmed with dogs. And my thing is, at this point in time, between myself and several other people in the community, I feel like I've made so many connections with so many different rescues. It's worth trying and trying to get help reaching out to rescues than to leave the dogs in the condition that they're in and to allow the same codes that are too lax for people to just to continue to violate and mistreat these animals. So to me, it's just worth a try. And like I said, I would love to draw something up and work with animal control or an officer to represent to the council to try to make these changes. And again, if they don't work,
sure. And
at least
and I
we
think
tried.
something that was mentioned too, the public-private relationship and cooperation. That's the only way you really get a hold of a problem. We could regulate away or try to regulate away issues all day long, and without the public-private partnership that's obviously here now, it would be in vain.
Well,
I mean, we can't arrest our way out of a situation. It's going to take
It is going to take the public,
it's
but
gonna
dealing
take
with the
the
puppy mill
public.
alone, like what
it's going
James
to take
had
the
said.
public, it's going to take the enforcement side, and also the education. Bob, you mentioned that, educating people, because look, you see it every Easter. All the little kids want ducks and chickens for Easter. And in 3 to 4 weeks, they all are dumped at Huckleberry Park. Everybody loves that little chick or that little duck until it starts growing up and doing its business all over in the house and then out the door. Oh, rabbits. We can't forget the rabbits.
Well, and-
So those are issues that
James had said people wouldn't call in and testify or be a witness. Dealing with the puppy mill, and again, I know this is out of city limits, out of your guys' jurisdiction, but dealing with them alone, they have literally been calling for years and years and years with no help. And so they just give up because they're like, what's the point of keep trying to call and if nobody's going to help them? So that could potentially be
And
an
that may
underlying
be,
issue as well.
and that may be part of it. My frustration that I was trying to express to you was, on more than one occasion, I've had times when I would have a report in front of me where neighbor blah, blah, blah said he saw this. When I got there, the dog wasn't that way. Neighbor says he doesn't want to get involved. Neighbor says, please don't give his name, et cetera, et cetera. So all I'm saying is, since we're having a public conversation, if you can share anything with people, it's if they see something where there's animal abuse, where there's animal cruelty, et cetera, they have to be willing to help me and have to be willing to testify.
I agree.
Because lots of times, unfortunately, because the ACOs are so busy, by the time they get there, it's almost as if the people have clairvoyance or something. They know the ACO's on the way, the dog gets put away, and then I don't have a witness, and the people are like, I'm telling you, I saw it, but I don't want to get involved. And then I end up with that report, and sometimes we try to prosecute it anyway, and the ACO has to admit, well, I didn't, all I saw was this and this. If we have people willing to come and testify, it's a lot easier to get prosecutions. So
let's go ahead and try to get that set up and arranged, and you guys report back to either myself, the council here, or James for any guidance. Chief, if you can help facilitate that through your clinic, I'd appreciate it.
Real quick, my family and I are extreme animal lovers. We treat our animals like they're our kids. The spirit of this, the leads and the collars and the overall conditions, I agree that there definitely needs to be some more restrictions on that, but defining them is probably going to take a touch of finesse.
Yeah, I agree. I think if the verbiage is just a little bit more clear to where people think around that loophole, well, it doesn't say. Like, I think that's how people are getting around a lot of.
I agree.
I'd just like us to add to Councilman Welch's point, same for us. And I think you asked when you started tonight, just for the ability to go back to the community and come back to us with more information. And I appreciate your time and effort. You can tell that you did a really good job from what little bit that I've looked at so far. My opinion is do it. Go get that information. Go get everything you can for us.
Well,
work with them. I know you have. I know you put in a lot of time,
I
a
know
lot of
it's
effort.
not possible without the community, so
But-
they do need to get involved now.
The more you can give us, the more that we can see how it works in other places and things like that. And James can, jump back on a lot of that stuff. I don't think anybody sitting up here, nobody in this room probably would argue your point that animal cruelty is a problem. We just have to figure out the best way to go about fixing it.
I agree.
But my opinion is yes, absolutely. Do what you asked when you started tonight. Get us the information and come back.
Okay.
I would agree. I also use social media to communicate with my ward. I'm third ward. So if there's something where you would like some feedback that I could use, you'd like me to use my social media with the third ward, I would be,
He does quite well with it.
I would be more than happy to to let
Going
you
live
use.
with the puppy mill and social media
Yep.
works wonders when you
Yes.
need some help.
So I would be more than happy to.
I appreciate that.
Get you some feedback and from my ward.
Thank you.
No, it's usually just on a agenda type thing, but all right. So we'll go ahead. All right. So very good. And hopefully we'll hear some follow-up here real soon, sooner than later.
And if, like I said, if you guys could take the time just to read some of the statements from the business and neighbors. Again, it's in regards to the puppy mill, but these neighbors and businesses are actually in city limits. And to
And how it
just kind
impacts
of
them.
look over the inspection reports, I just feel like that's the type of stuff we shouldn't be allowing in the community, so.
Just again, I'm curious about one thing. You said basically that the county gave you a deaf ear. It is,
The sheriff's department told me that I should just let it go. And I've had a couple people tell me to just let it go. When it comes to kids and animals, it's something that I'm very passionate about and I can't let go. And honestly, people telling me that just fuels my fire that much more to fight for those that don't have a voice and to fight for what in my heart I feel like is right. So,
well, please talk to the county commission too.
okay,
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, April.
thank you.
Okay, council, the next item on the agenda is Lisa Peck, city manager. You have some appointments, it looks like.
Yes, I have 2 reappointments for planning and zoning before you this evening. The first is Barry Louderman, and his term would expire in June of 2023. It's a 4-year term, but apparently the reappointment did not happen last year. So there's that one. And then Sue Giroux, and her term would expire June of 2020.
Okay. And you'll bring those back at the next meeting, is that correct? Okay. Karen Burdett, Director of Finance.
Evening again. Okay, I have 2 ordinances to bring before you tonight for first reading. The first one is the fiscal year 2021 budget and appropriation. This is, as we discussed at our budget workshop, and the changes to the preliminary budget that you had received. So that is the first item for first reading. The second ordinance is the ordinance for the pay of the officer employees for the city for the fiscal year 2021. Now, this is for the first reading. Our second reading will be in the first meeting in July. And so we cannot make any, pay any appropriations or salaries until we have that second reading on Tuesday night. And then our, the city's pay is that Thursday. Also, council, you all normally get paid on the first of the month. You will not get paid until after this ordinance has had its second reading.
Yeah, we do it for the money anyways.
I know. I know how that important that is.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So I have those 2 ordinances for the first reading tonight.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Those are B bills to follow. Phyllis Nelson, Collector. Are you here for housekeeping?
Good evening. I come here tonight, as I do every year about this time, to ask council's permission to do budget adjustments at the end of this fiscal year. It will be ending June 30th. This is only the expenditure line. I do not move any money from one fund to another. Some lines sometimes are, we wind up spending more for something than we had anticipated. And I kind of robbed Peter to pay Paul in that instance. Look for other lines in your department, in the department if possible. Otherwise, some other department might get robbed, but it's all general fund money or whatever. So I just need your permission to do this every year.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Clean it up for us. You got it. Andy Dorian, Director of Central Services.
Good evening, Mayor. Council, 2 items tonight. Kind of a different one here. I'm here tonight to request a bid waiver for the Memorial Park Bench Program. The Park Board a few years ago selected a specific bench. It's called the Dumar Bench 446. And it is the one we advertised for the program. We've actually, at this point in time, have sold 17 benches for the riverfront. We brought in over $34,000, which is great. That offsets expenses that we would have had to have made 4 benches. And we are still selling them. We had 2 go out today, so that number should go to 19 here pretty soon. With that said, there's only 1 manufacturer of the bench and 1 sales rep for this bench. And so any more than 3 benches I have to do would have to do bids every single time, which is cumbersome. Doesn't really benefit anybody. So I'm asking for a bid waiver for this specific bench.
This keeps continuity as well.
It does. And
Okay.
tourism is going to piggyback off of this as well. They have sold some benches for their new place. It'll be the same bench, Dumar 446. So if we get any other kind of benches, we'll go through the
Andy,
process.
what's the finish on those? Are those like a powder coat?
It is. It's a black galvanized powder coating. We actually, if anyone wants to see one, we have one already at the Armory.
Okay, they look very nice.
They're super nice. So they're $2,000 a piece. That's what we're selling for. That's what they cost. We're not making any money off of those. They will last a very long time. And if the good thing about them is if they ever were damaged or anything like that, we can go and take them and have them repowder coated for a couple $100 and they're brand new. So.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the bid waiver that Andy's requesting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. Next item, Andy.
Right before I go to that, I just updated, my secretary gave me this update because we're talking about this memorial program. We're actually getting ready to go out for bid for the Veterans Memorial. We have, at this point in time, raised over $56,000 for that, so we're close enough to the goal to go ahead and bid. We are still selling bricks. We'll sell bricks forever. We have plenty of space, but I know that's pretty exciting. That's something that we've been trying to do for quite some time. So hopefully next 2 weeks we are out for bid for that cool monument. So next topic. I have change order number 4 for the riverfront. It's a no cost change order. Bly Construction's lost 165 days of construction from September 23rd of 2019 till May 29th. Basically lost all of March, or April, some of May because of flooding. We are just at about 19 feet. We're at 17 feet now. So anybody that's been there, you see my emails, they are progressing. There's the sidewalks are doing very well. I know there's somebody here is vested on that project, but it's amazing if anyone wants to go down there. They are making a lot of progress. They're working 6 days a week. They're really close to being done with digging out the marina. So we're moving forward, but this would change the substantial completion date from June 30th to October 31st. So.
And just for the record, in order to successfully complete the marina area and boat ramp, the river has to be down
below 11 feet.
Below 11 feet.
For 2 reasons. The entire stormwater for the riverfront actually dumps into the marina. It's underneath the boat ramp. Mm-hmm. So that has to go in the boat ramp itself. So everything will be timed and ready to go. It just got to get to that level and be ready to rock and roll. If the river would cooperate, next 6 weeks you could start seeing that progress happening. But it's river contingent. But they are still progressing. They're moving dirt. They are doing electric, doing the water. The bathrooms are done. So they are making some good progress. I know myself, the city manager, the mayor, and Councilman Bowen met with Bly a couple weeks ago, had a good meeting, and just from that meeting alone, significant progress has been made. So
when was the last time we were at 10 or 11 feet on the river, though?
I think we got there maybe a little bit last year, but
yeah,
we got to cross our fingers. So We need to get below 16 first.
Yeah.
So
So change order number 4 is a resolution 2265-20 to follow. Is there any questions for Andy on it right now? Okay, Andy, thank you.
thank you, Mayor.
Council, before us now, we have bill number 20-017. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a first reading.
So moved.
Motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Bill number 20-017, an ordinance approving the fiscal year 2020 to 2021 budget and appropriating to the various departments, boards, commissions, and agencies of the city government of the city of Hannibal, Missouri for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. First reading.
And the next bill, 20-018. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a first reading.
So move.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Bill number 20-018, an ordinance to pay officers and employees of the city of Hannibal, Missouri for the fiscal year 2020-2021. First reading.
Council, we now have before us resolution number 2265-20. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution and call the roll for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
And a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Resolution number 2265-20, a resolution of the City of Hannibal authorizing the mayor to execute change order number 4 between the city and Black Construction Company to extend the contract substantial completion date to October 31st, 2020 for the riverfront renovation project. Councilmember Veach? McCoy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson?
Yes.
Councilmember Cogdill?
Yes.
Mayor Hark?
Yes.
Councilmember Welch?
Yes.
Declare resolution 2265-20 to be approved and adopted on this day. Council, I'm now asking you to go into closed session in accordance with RSMO 610.021, paragraph 3, personnel, and paragraph 12, contract negotiations, admitting myself, council, city manager, city attorney, city clerk, Andy Dorian, director of central services. That should be it.
So move. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Sorry. Councilmember Veach?
Yes.
McCoy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson?
Yes.
Councilmember Cogdill?
Yes.
Mayor Hark?
Yes.
Councilmember Welch?
Yes.
Very good. We're now in closed session. Thank you.